And at 10, the scrap puppet. I don't know why, but like every version of the puppet that's intended to really be scary gives me the heebie-jeebies. And like this was only like a concept and like a fan art and didn't actually appear in any of the game, but that's not the criteria, okay? This isn't top 10 scary FNAF alternate fan puppets that appeared in games. No, it's just fan animatronics. And while some people may not be able to make a game from their creations, they can still draw them and still give me nightmares for all eternity, okay? But this is the most tame out of the bunch today. The scrap puppet was created by TFE Arts on DeviantArt and is really giving me some Venom symbiote vibes with all the tendrils coming off of their back. They are clearly meant to be present in FNAF 6 since, you know, they're at the review table and the only time we see scrap animatronics outside of Ultimate Custom Night is FNAF 6, so this is clearly meant to be the start of a jump scare while trying to salvage them, which is a whole other reason why it's terrifying. And the glowing green eyes are creepy, okay? And overall, just the ruined look really sets me on edge, okay? Like, especially when this man is very clearly juicing. Look at those pecs. And at 9, Blank. The Blank animatronic from Five Nights at Candy's and Five Nights at Candy's Remastered is actually very unique in concept, no doubt being inspired by Mangle, but it's like Mangle and the puppet merged into one being, or at least in my mind that's how it feels. And you know what, that makes it good enough for this list. Blank is a drawing attraction that is meant for children to write and draw whatever they want on its body, so technically they could draw the puppet tears, okay, so it counts. Over time the animatronic is obviously withered down, and the withered version from the second game is probably what we're going to be focusing on for this number. The withered Blank is the most withered out of any of the animatronics. All of the suit parts seem to be damaged in one way or another. The large part of the left side of their head is gone, exposing an endoskeleton, and the left forearm and upper right arm are missing exoskeletons as well, while his right forearm is just gone. That's my left, but for you it's right, I'm pretty sure. That's how that works, I think. But all suit parts below his knees are gone as well, and there are like 2 holes in his torso, and one of the holes exposes endoskeleton, because you know, the more endoskeleton, the worse it is. His texture isn't white anymore, and it's rather more of a gray, kind of like the shirt you forgot to wash, that it just isn't the same anymore. Unless you use today's sponsor, I'm just kidding, okay? Blank can also be seen unwithered in the first minigame, and appears to be the same as he was in the first game's minigame, but in this Night 6 second minigame, the player can actually see his original appearance when he actually can be drawn on. Human whiteboard. That's not human, but robot. He's a smartboard. And a crazed shadow puppet. So there are actually a whole series of these like shadow animatronics and I love them. But for some reason they kind of remind me of like Bendy and the Ink Machine vibes. I don't know, maybe it's like the wash of insanity, or maybe it's all like the dripping ink like look kind of like on their faces. But yeah, it's definitely given me Bendy vibes, okay? Crazed shadow puppet is probably my favorite of all these crazed shadow animatronics, and we can actually kind of see that it's not, there's something disturbed about its grinning, okay? Why it has wide eyes, and if you look closer, you can see like the puppet faceplate cracked as well. Okay, it's a whole basket case, and you know what? I relate. This is how I feel on the inside, and you know what? Having to look at my demons, that's terrifying. Terrifying enough to earn you a spot on this list. And at 7, FNAF Plus Bonnie. FNAF Plus is an in-development fan game being funded by the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, and as I described in the video about the Fanverse timeline, this is probably the deviation point from the main timeline, with other events largely remaining the same if not identical. However, this version of not only Bonnie but the other 2 as well are just plain creepy, man. Like if Funko Pops could actually kill you and wanted to, this is what it would happen. Not sponsored, but like Funko, we can talk, okay? I have too many. The structure of the head though is honestly best described as a Funko Pop vinyl figure, with a wide jaw that would slay any mother who walked in with their kids for their birthday party, but it's so creepy and off-putting, okay? They certainly nailed the creepier and darker theme that they seem to be going for with these remakes, because these set me on edge really badly, okay? They put me on edge so bad, I'm Lady Gaga. I'm on the edge of terror, not glory. But trust me, looking at these horrifying versions is not glorious in the slightest. And at 6, Havoc Bonnie. Here we go, the good old classic Dormitibus. The default game for any scary animatronics list. Known as probably the most disturbing FNAF fan game, Dormitibus takes place before FNAF 4 and FNAF 5 even came out. So before the official act and name reveal as well as the Nightmare animatronics. But this is honestly worse than the Nightmare animatronics, in my humble opinion. The thing is, Havoc Bonnie wasn't even in the original Dormitivus. Yeah, this is a fan creation based on a fan game, making it one of the most meta versions of Bonnie on this list. Although there is another one that's even more meta, but I'll get to that later. And the fact that the Dormitivus based version of Bonnie is only number 6 should speak volumes. And no, it's not at number 6 only because it wasn't in the original game, okay? The original game is really messed up, so it's kind of a good thing that it wasn't there. I suggest looking it up if you're over the age of 16 at least. Like, kids should not be looking at that kind of thing, okay? It's messed up, honestly. Like, not even a joke. That it's halfway through into number 5, Scrap Puppet. I don't know why, but every version of the puppet intended to be scary just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't have puppophobia, but it does. First, the Reaper puppet, which I talked about in the first scariest FNAF animatronics list years ago, and honestly, it was the inspiration behind this video. And then the Havoc puppet from another video, and now we have the Scrap puppet. This was only a concept in fan art and doesn't actually appear in any fan game, but this wasn't the criteria, okay? This isn't top 10 scary FNAF fan animatronics that appear in games. No, it's fan animatronics. It's fine, although that is a good idea. No, it's just fan animatronics. And while some people may not be able to make a game for their creations, they can still draw them and give me nightmares for all of eternity. The particular image that I found has just like what looks like the beginning of a Scrap Puppet jump scare when you're salvaging them in FNAF 6, but obviously it isn't the actual game because the puppet was captured by Lefty. But this still sets me on edge with the tentacles coming off of it and like that creepy smile. Oh my god. In at 4, Ignited Foxy. Ignited Foxy is similar to normal Foxy, just with only a pelvis, thighs, a forearm, and a head. Relatable. Ignited Foxy comes from the joy of creation, the same as Ignited Chica, but Foxy is even worse. Normal Foxy already looks pretty torn up, considering how he's a pirate and all that, but the Ignited version is missing an ear and most of his flesh. Can I call it flesh? Should I be calling it flesh? I guess it's missing most of its shell casing. Both lower leg sections, his upper arm, his lower right arm, as well as his feet and chest are also missing, but the hook's still there. He's gotta have the hook. Arrgh. He has to keep the hook. How else is he gonna make those 1,000-degree hook videos where he like puts it through like flowering foam and then carves your eye out? His eyes glow white, and honestly, I don't know if you'll love this Foxy as much as you'll love the normal Foxy after seeing this, because it's terrifying. Like, holy hell. Getting close to the end in number 3, Havoc Freddy. What the f is this thing? Like, this thing has to be the most confusing form of Freddy that we have ever seen in any version of the game. St. Patty's Day Freddy, normal. Icicle Freddy, normal. What the hell is this? He looks like an even more canine version of Mangle with Foxy's arm in his mouth, holding a sign that says, "I look like a toaster with a slice of bread." And that's not a joke. I'm actually serious. He's holding an arm that is holding a sign that says that it looks like a toaster with a slice of bread. What? If the sheer confusion isn't enough to put you off, it's also missing an eye, even though it has another head attached to it, that it looks like the eyes were torn out of that too. Go find those eyes, my dude! Can you tell that this series of games is driving me crazy? Like, at this point, we've done more FNAF videos than I feel like anyone else on YouTube. There is over 450 FNAF videos in the playlist, and I've done the majority of them. I have done over a year's worth of FNAF videos. Penultimately, into number 2, Blank. The Blank animatronic from Five Nights at Candy's and Five Nights at Candy's Remastered is actually very unique in concept. No doubt being inspired by Mangle, I think, though. He is a drawing attraction that is meant for children to write and draw wherever they want on his body. Over time, the animatronic was obviously withered down, and the withered version from the second game is where we'll be focusing for this number. Withered Blank is the most withered out of any of the animatronics. All of his suit parts seem to be damaged in one way or another. A large part of the left side of his head is gone, exposing his endoskeleton. His left forearm and right upper arm are missing their exoskeletons, and while his right forearm is completely gone, all suit parts below his knees are also gone, and there are 2 holes in his torso. One of the holes exposes an endoskeleton. His texture isn't even white anymore, rather more of a gray color, like the shirt you forgot to wash that just isn't the same anymore. Unless you use today's sponsor. I'm just kidding, we're not sponsored. Blank also can be seen unwithered in the first minigame, but he appears to be the same as he was in the first game, so yeah. But in Night night 6 of the second minigame, the player also can see Blank's original appearance, which is actually kind of cool. It's a cool concept. And finally, in at number 1, Withered Glitch Trap. You can fight me all you want about my opinions on Springtrap, but there is no way that you can fight me on the fact that Glitch Trap isn't an animatronic. Firstly, he's just game code with no real world equivalent aside from William Afton and I guess technically now Burntrap and Vanny. Secondly, he was literally just a suit. You can tell by the fabric, the different design to the Bonnie we all know and love, kind of, and the stitching around his joints. But this version of Glitch Trap, specifically this one, known as Withered Glitch Trap by Shadow Foxy on Amino, is designed to be an animatronic, therefore it counts for this list. This thing is terrifying. Like, I've always had a soft spot for Glitch Trap. I hate this thing because like it gives me creepy bear vibes, if you know what I mean, like the old uncle. You know, it's an old meme, but it checks out. Anyway, I hate these kinds of things. And the way that Glitch Trap just like stands there and waves and then slowly gets closer to you as the player while you're slowly picking up these the tapes, you're also playing as a child in that game, indicated by your height when you load up the game. It doesn't sit right with me, hence why I avoid picking up the tapes, because I know that it's going to summon him. Now, with all of that said and done, this version is actually worse. The actual withered appearance along with the desaturation of the costume and the exposed endoskeleton is just, it's too much for me, and I can't do this anymore. I'm done! In at 10, Reaper Mangle. Reaper Mangle is absolutely terrifying. Some may just be scary because of circumstance, but Reaper Mangle comes from Final Nights 3 and 4. But I want to focus on the Final Nights 4 version, okay, since that one is actually terrifying. The one from the third game just kind of looks like a Lego Duplo version of Mangle. In the fourth game, however, Mangle's face appears to be melted and decaying, as if it was chewing gum, but the gum was its face. And there is basically no exterior shell on this thing, except for the face. Slightly on the left arm, but oh my god. Honestly, you can only tell this is Mangle because of the name and the color scheme. Other than that, if someone looked at this only knowing Mangle by the appearance in FNAF 2, it would take them a little while before they actually realized who it was meant to be. The Reaper animatronics are terrifying, but they get far worse in Final Nights 4. In at 9, Chuck E. Cheese. No, I'm not kidding. Someone actually made Chuck E. Cheese canon in the FNAF world. I don't know what particular game he comes from, if any. I saw him on the FNAF RP fandom wiki page and just kind of cowered in my pants. He's just a recolored Freddy Fazbear and doesn't really have much other than a couple of images in the FNAF world, other than that, the one maybe, but like I'm sure you know what Chuck E. Cheese looks like, okay? Apparently, Chucky got sent to Freddy's as a guest star, but also started moving around at night. Well, since CEC, the parent company for Chuck E. Cheese, did file for bankruptcy, at least in part, this might actually come true, and if it does, if there is some form of FNAF Chuck E. Cheese crossover, I'm going to cry. There have also been reports of children going missing and animatronics moving after hours in Chuck E. Cheese locations, but these stories aren't true. And to anyone saying that the closed Chuck E. Cheeses should be redesigned into Fazbear locations, yes. Okay, you should go watch our videos, but also it may not be a good idea considering how many kids got stuff. But we made a whole video series about how they could do that. In at 8, Ignited Chica. Ignited Chica comes from the joy of creation, one of the most terrifying fan games ever. Scott's lucky that he didn't make this game, because if he did, nobody would play it out of sheer fear. Like, I don't know how horror junkies do it. Why do you like being scared? It's supposed to be a bad thing. Anyway, Ignited Chica is similar to the other Ignited animatronics, just a more decayed and run-down version of the original. And while Eddie may not be trying to get with this one, and I'm not really either, there is a clear reason why, okay? The jaw is gone, leaving only the top part of the beak and a load of exposed wire, okay? Half of her left arm is gone, and her entire right arm is gone, aside from like a little bit of endoskeleton, okay? And look at the feet. Like, oh man, Chica, like I can see your wiki feet score going down already. Okay, honestly, it's probably not going down. There are people who are into some really weird stuff. Like, I'm not kink shaming. I mean, I make jokes about banging a toy animatronic regularly, but like, it's not weird to them. It's only weird to people with a conscience. Moving on. In at 7, the BOA. The BOA is basically like another form of Mangle, but this time hailing from the Dormitibus universe. I say this is Mangle-like because of the multiple heads and exposed endoskeletons connecting them all. The 2018 updated version is far more hectic than the original as well, but it just seems kinda smaller. I don't know why, but animatronics that can kill me by biting my ankles off just put me off in a different way when compared to something like Foxy or Dreadbear who could crush me with a snap. Like the little Freddies and the plush trap and then like the plush babies, no. No, 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 no. And this thing doesn't make it any better, considering how it has 5 heads. The head of Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Mangle, Balloon Boy, and Toy Chica. Mommy, why? But it also has the hook from Foxy just chilling, ready to tear your face off and like then lay eggs inside your brain. I don't know, okay? The story for Dormitibus is really messed up and I don't really quite understand it all. So I'm not sure what this thing is really going to do. And don't worry, this isn't the only Dormitibus animatronic on this list. And at 6, Reaper Balloon Boy. Reaper Balloon Boy looks terrifying in both Final Nights 3 and 4, the only games in which he makes an appearance. Luckily. But as I said with Reaper Mangle, Final Nights 4 is where the creep factor really gets dialed up to 12. His face is melting and hell, even his balloon is showing endoskeleton, which totally blows my mind. And the propellers on his hats are just going nuts. The right hand of Doom got run over by a truck and his left hand looks like me trying to use chopsticks. But like at least you can tell that it's still Balloon Boy. Despite messed up attributes, I can't help but get weirded out by this thing. Like I swear as I was writing this I had the picture up next to me. I saw him move towards me and then back away as I moved my eyes back, okay? It was a horrifying experience and I really need to make sure that I'm doing okay because I swear he tilted his head now. Like, I get that his head is tilted to the right, but like come on. And anytime I refer to direction, I mean from their point of view, okay? Because I learned my lesson with Bonnie. Halfway through and at number 5, Grim Chica. The first Springlock victim in the Final Nights series, Grim Chica is the primary antagonist in Final Nights 3 Nightmares Awaken. Unlike the others though, she is not a Reaper animatronic. Grim Chica holds a strong appearance to the Springlock suits on the poster in the Night 3 cutscene, but her face plates are very hard to spot. She's also almost entirely purple. The glowing accents inside her suit resemble a human corpse. She lacks a bib unlike the original Chica, and overall her body is very slim like the original Toy Chica, except for her hips, which appear to be much wider, which is making me all sorts of confused. And she lacks shoulders or upper arms, with her forearms protruding from her armpits. So yeah, not confused anymore. Grim Chica is also revealed to be a Springlock victim in the museum level, saying, quote, a victim of a Springlock failure, forever forced to haunt the suit she was wearing, now being manipulated by your sister and mother, tried spray on tan, still very pale. Why is this relatable to me? Why are these two, the two Springlock victims from Final Nights 3 so relatable? No matter what I'll do, I'm always gonna be pasty, and you know what, I'm okay with that. However, I did rank this above Grim Fredbear because it's Chica. And look at how they massacred my baby! Oh man, I'm sorry, mommy. These transgressions will not be accepted. And at 4, Am I Real? Am I Real, also known as Cake Bear, is presumably the primary and most recurring antagonist in Dormitibus. Am I Real has 2 different forms. His first form is Cake Bear, and Cake Bear's design originated from the Save Him minigame, where he delivered cake to children while someone is being killed outside. He's the predecessor to both Fredbear and Freddy Fazbear, but Cake Bear is a brown bear animatronic that also acts as a Springlock suit that appears in most of the main nights. Although they look slightly similar, the only similarities it really has to Freddy is that they both possess a top hat, are brown, have blue eyes, and are a bear, which I mean I guess is the whole character. Am I Real's second form is the form that resembles Springtrap. This form has a green color, much like Springtrap does, and actually contains human remains. Great. His right eye socket has gotten bigger on the side, and there's a big hole that can be seen on the right side of his head. His top hat has received some withering, because you know, it has a corpse inside. His lower jaw is slanted and worn down. He doesn't have it's not circular like Cake Bear's. He has a sizable hole in the right side of his torso as well, revealing organs. He has rips and tears covering his arms, revealing more human remains, and he just appears to be missing like a finger on his right hand for whatever reason. And you know what? No matter what, it's still terrifying to look at. And of course, 3 out of 10 of these are going to be from Dormitibus, okay? Because like, have you ever played Dormitibus? Have you seen these guys? They're terrifying. Just wait. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Reaper Spring Bonnie. Reaper Spring Bonnie, however, is the opposite of Stage Bonnie. This Reaper variant appears in Final Nights Nights 3 and 4 and is an absolute monstrosity. But it's definitely more terrifying in Final Nights 4, so let's focus on that one. He is 100% the scariest animatronic in this series. In essence, Reaper Spring Bonnie is a nightmare spring trap. He has sharp teeth and a very damaged and withered body. His suit is dark yellow in color. He sports a big purple bow tie on his upper chest, kinda like Glitch Trap. And then, like the other Reaper animatronics, Reaper Spring Bonnie has one pair of hollow, dark eyes that will steal your soul. I added that last part, but it's probably true. In Final Nights 4, his appearance is much more disfigured and gruesome, with sharper teeth, sharper claws, a different jaw, growths on his shoulders resembling fungi, and a kind of a gooier appearance overall. It's like the slime girl from YouTube if she made a FNAF character. He's also missing half of his right ear like Springtrap in FNAF 3, and his suit is more greenish in color this time around to be more like Springtrap. And oh my god, this thing is still terrifying, and it's more terrifying than Springtrap, okay? This is what Springtrap should have been, or honestly, this is what I think like a Nightmare Springtrap would look like, okay? This is like a prototype Burn Trap in my eyes, or the way I'm thinking, like Melt Trap, the next iteration of Afton. But ultimately, in at number 2, Garvey, a psychopathic, cold-blooded killer. He stopped being human long ago. That's how Garvey is described in the extras of Dormitibus, okay? Garvey is the penultimate antagonist in Dormitibus. As a human, he was the man who murdered the missing children and later went on to get trapped in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap. He was then burnt to a permanent death in the Fazbear Fright's fire, unlike our William Afton, but that's not only where he differs, because Garvey is more gooey, and he's a more gooey or gory version of Springtrap from FNAF 3. And it's also actually not William Afton, since this game was released before the official name reveal, even before FNAF 4. So, yeah, he's Springtrap, but with hardly any exosuit or animatronic casing, whatever you end up wanting to call it. He crawls on all fours and uses his left hand as a foot and his left foot as a hand, like some demon monkey from hell that even Satan doesn't want around, okay? He's like trying to like send it away. He's like, yeah, no, don't. Like, you're seeing pictures, okay? Like, tell me, do you think that it shouldn't be on this list, okay? Because if you're saying that, you're lying. I can tell. And finally, in at number 1, you. Spoiler alert for a fan game. The fan game, which if I say the name will spoil it, so if you want to avoid spoilers, just go to the bloopers, but like, thanks for watching. But either way, I'll give you the chance to do that. Okay, there we go. That was your chance. You're done. A Shadow Over Freddy's is a FNAF fan game created by Fiznom on GameJolt. It was released on the 25th of April 2018. And since it was made by the same guy who is currently working on FNAF Plus for the Fazbear Fanverse, it's gonna be good. The gameplay of A Shadow Over Freddy's is a hybrid between a traditional point-and-click game and a free-roaming horror game. The player wakes up to find themselves with no memories in a black and white abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and is tasked with surviving 5 nights and escaping the restaurant. The player is given a different set of tasks each night and must complete said tasks before 6 AM and without being attacked by any roaming animatronics. However, the ending of this game has you getting trapped in a springlock suit and left to rot, meaning that you are a springlock victim, which is probably the scariest victim of them all. I don't know about you, some of you I do because I've seen the comments, but I would rather not get springlocked. It's also revealed that you are William Afton in this game, but you know what, it's you, so it's good enough for me. In at 10, Phantom Ballora. The Phantom animatronics are where most of the scare from FNAF 3 come from. They jump out at seemingly random times, scaring the player and distracting them, giving Springtrap the chance to move. But even though they're the main source of the scares, we only get a few animatronics to take on this ghostly mantle. But even though this game comes later in a timeline sense, Sister Location wasn't released before FNAF 3, and therefore we got no Sister Location Phantom animatronics in the game. But that doesn't stop people from making new ones, and out of all the custom Phantom animatronics that I've seen, Ballora is probably the most tame, only having the texture of the Phantoms and only maybe a couple of missing limbs, but really not much else going on. So this makes it not as scary and probably not as unsettling as others on this list, but I mean, at least this is like all Ballora, right? Which makes it more suited for this list than maybe a couple other ones. In at 9, Stylized Ballora. No matter who creates a more stylized version version of Ballora, they always end up looking more humanoid, and I don't know about you, but I prefer my robots to not be humans. No matter what, the stylized Balloras of the world are creepy as hell and give off some ultimate Austin Powers fembot vibes, and not in the really not okay nowadays way. And while this video already wasn't good for my search history, these more humanoid versions of Ballora, given that she's already quite the feminine robot, is definitely going to give me some weird ads, okay? Like, imagine a FNAF dating sim advertising itself in a way that's like similar to those ads that's like local animatronics in your area looking to stuff you or something like that. That would be hilarious. You know what? You can have that idea for free. Go for it, okay? If I see that ad, I'm gonna click it no matter what. That's hilarious. That's so good. You can have that one for free, okay? God knows Phasmophobia didn't pay me, but that's a whole other thing. I'm still mad about that. I could have been making some bank. 888 Hybrid Ballora. Okay, this is kind of something I was referencing a little earlier, and while I may not shudder at the thought of Hybrid Ballora, the fact that someone would combine Baby and Ballora in this way is just, like, what purpose does this serve other than just to creep me out? It's an abomination. Like, these are two characters that I never intended on or wanted to see together. It just sets me on edge. This is like a grown-up version of Baby, and her name is literally Baby, so it feels wrong. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. It's Baby's visuals on Ballora's body with some added thickness for some reason, and it's making me all sorts of confused, okay? But one question still remains. Is Elizabeth possessing this one? Or like, was the creator making this like intended on it being a separate character, or did they actually like combine, and then why is it thicker than a Villaggio thick slice of bread? I don't know. Hashtag not sponsored, but Villaggio, hit me up.
We can work something out. I like bread. I can pull like an Austin Powers, or not an Austin, I can pull a Scott Pilgrim joke.
And it's 7 Shadow Spring Bonnie. Shadow Spring Bonnie is one of the two primary antagonists of Final Nights 2. He is one of the final animatronics in the game. Shadow Spring Bonnie resembles Springtrap, as to be expected when mentioning Springlock suits, but similar to Springtrap, he lacks the suit on his feet and has a majority of his right ear missing. Overall, he has rips, but not any real missing limbs or parts at all, which is a stark contrast to the burnt animatronics in the first 4 nights of this game. His face glows white, which is noticeable when he's in the hallway, but also gives him a more sinister appearance and pushes the something supernatural that most of the Shadow animatronics have, like with Shadow Bonnie from FNAF AR. Shadow Spring Bonnie takes the role of Burnt Freddy and Burnt Foxy on night 5, which means that he's very fast, so the player needs to seal the vent quickly, otherwise you'll get jump scared. He also may appear in the hallway, but if he does, never use your flashlight, otherwise you'll get insta-killed. Instead, you need to inspect his face when he appears there, and if he's twitching, close the door. A rattling sound will be heard so that you know he's left. And the fact that you need to look at his face to see if you're in danger just makes this even scarier, especially considering the fact that most of what you need to do relies on fast reflexes, and then you're just sitting there trying to figure out if he's really twitching or if that's just you going crazy. Not from personal experience, I don't know. What? In its 6, Golden Call. As a human, when alive, Golden Call's name was Kyle. However, now he is a Springlock victim stuck inside a Golden Freddy Springlock suit. Golden Call has the typical rundown Springlock suit vibe, similar to Springtrap. However, this is even more gruesome. His left ear is bent, he has bugs coming out of basically every hole in his body, human eyes are hanging out of the animatronic's eye sockets, he's missing the exosuit on his right foot, and his character is holding a flesh-colored, at least colored, it's probably flesh-made, let's be honest, phone in his right hand that stays stuck to his head via more flesh or like blood tendril strands connecting to the side of his head, okay? It's horrifying. It's a monstrosity. And looking at his age on the wiki, Kyle was only 5 years old when he got spring-locked, which is absolutely nuts and just flat out horrible. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Yikes. This kid could have been the next best Fortnite player. Halfway through into number 5, Dark Nightmare Fredbear. Dark Nightmare Fredbear is an interesting character since they aren't meant to be a shadow animatronic like Shadow Fredbear, but they're a purple version of the animatronic with additional withering and just a more horrific appearance. Some look like they should be Shadow Nightmare Freddy, but Dark Nightmare Freddy is just, it's a badass name and I love it, okay? With glowing eyes and teeth and the nightmare aesthetic being cranked up to an 11, this guy is surely going to haunt my dreams even more than FNAF already does. I'm not kidding, okay? Like I just said, I had a dream where I was part animatronic. FNAF is taking over my life, okay? I also had a dream that I joined the Yogscast, but that's a separate thing. God, I really hope that Multiverse of Madness isn't right, or at least for the first one. But you know what? Even in that Yogscast stream, I still couldn't get away from FNAF because my TTT skin was Toy Chica. Yeah, that's right. And then during the Jingle Jam, they made me play FNAF VR. This is not okay, alright? They even recreated FNAF scenes with a skit where the purple guy wasn't William Afton, but instead the Bristol Poacher. I'm telling you, FNAF has invaded every aspect of my life, but honestly, I'd still be down to do that if they wanted to have me on for some videos. But even that, I mean, still, okay? This doesn't help that process in my brain, alright? No thanks. In at 4, Demented Fredbear. Now it could be my search history, however when looking up the word demented on Google Images, the first thing that was recommended was actually Demented Fredbear, and looking at it, I can see why. Demented Fredbear is what Nightmare Fredbear should have been in my opinion. The exterior isn't as torn up on the torso, but instead it kept the tearing mostly at the joints and extremities, and overall, its appearance just seems to be more aggressive and bloodthirsty. Some iterations of this character even have tongues coming out of both mouths, like the one on the stomach, like the mouth on the face, and then the famous stomach mouth also has the tongue, which is horrifying. Demented Fredbear's nails are also extremely long and very sharp, because of course they are, easily being able to tear through flesh or dig back down to the pits of hell from which it came. This is actually extremely well made. And I actually moved it up from its original position. It was at number 6, but I felt that number 4 was more realistic, okay? Even if the realistic Fredbear is pretty damn horrifying, but for a completely different reason. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Twisted Nightmare. The Twisted animatronics are probably the most horrific animatronics ever described. These buggers are disgusting and horrific and are only approachable when using illusion discs to make themselves look presentable, like me in the mornings. Combine that with Nightmare, who is the scariest animatronic from the games, and oh my god, you have one hell of a beast. Twisted Nightmare is everything you want to avoid when creating something for kids. I can hardly put it into words, honestly, okay? I'm glad that there's pictures that can be shown because I don't know how to even start trying to describe this. I guess it's like if Hell's Gates had opened and then released the entirety of FNAF lore into real life, and then the Joy of Creation animatronics also came out, including not just the ones from the game, but literally every other animatronic from the series in an ignited form. Yeah, and then they all merged into one and then became a twisted one. That's how this demonic monstrosity would have been created, okay? It's wrong, I feel deceived, and I can actually feel physical pain in my gut, although that might also just be the sunburn. But ultimately, in at number 2, Withered Nightmare Fredbear. I'm honestly surprised that I didn't include this in the last part, but you know what? Withered Nightmare Fredbear is one of the most horrific Fredbear versions I've seen. The animatronic already looked pretty withered, but take away the limits of the nightmare aesthetic and then boom, you have yourself some actual literal nightmare fuel, ironically enough. One version even fixed the character, but still managed to make them even more horrifying than the original, with an extended jaw, like a missing jaw, or even missing just chunks of the entire body. Withered Nightmare Fredbear makes me glad FNAF VR doesn't have mods other than full bright mode, although it probably does, I've just been ignoring them, okay? I wonder how easy a full bright mode playthrough of the game would have been. I mean, it wouldn't really be scary since that's the whole point of the game, but I mean I don't know, I feel like it would have been way too easy. Maybe I should play through. No, I'm not playing through it, okay? I'm not touching that, I'm not touching this, I don't want it to happen. And finally, in at number 1, Twisted Fredbear. Twisted Fredbear, instead of Twisted Nightmare, has to be one of the worst creations known to man. Not in a so bad it's scary kind of way, but in a oh my god, what twisted mind could have created this unholy monster from the deepest pits of hell kind of way. It's like the 19th circle of hell was just yeah, no, you're too scary, get back up there. Twisted Fredbear takes everything that makes the twisted animatronics scary, then adds them to Nightmare Fredbear, then cranks it up to 27. From boils all over to extra sharp teeth and claws, some even have a tongue coming out of the stomach mouth again, but like an actual human tongue, okay, not a long squiggly one. It's messed up. Some people made the joints have teeth, which is a whole other can of worms, and these just make me want to crawl into a hole and cry, okay? I'm horrified by just the sheer amount of creativity that will come out of the FNAF community, okay? We need a community pot money for therapy, because there's clearly something that a lot of us have in common that we aren't really working through. And you know what? I feel like if I ever start therapy, my therapist is gonna look at all these videos and then say, yeah, no, I can't help you. But at least if I find one online, I'll be safe thanks to NordVPN. Thank you for sponsoring this video. And at 10, Dismantled Fredbear. Dismantled Fredbear is an antagonist and the main attraction in the fan game Fredbear's Fright. Dismantled Fredbear appears to be a slightly withered version of Fredbear from the main FNAF games, but Fredbear's appearance this time is similar to that of like a dismantled Spring Bonnie, although with a purple hat and tie and like a darker brown color for his suit. Due to being a Springlock character, he also has 5 fingers on each hand, but he only has 4 toes on each foot. His right eye is broken and it hangs half open, and his suit is covering his extremities, and it seems to have a bit of scattered holes, which is concerning, okay? There are also presumably blood stains on his teeth, and this could possibly be due to the bite of 83 that we see take place in FNAF 4, which presumably causes the Springlocks to get discontinued and deemed unfit for employees. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in this universe that's the case, but you know what, yeah. Let's move on. In at 9, Human Nightmare Fredbear. Human versions of animatronics always set me on edge. I get worried whenever I look these up because from what I've seen, I also start to get weird ads, which is why I always look these up using the top 10 gaming account. Haha, I've seen some weird shit, man, okay? Reddit is a scary place. Aside from all the horrific things I've seen, Human Nightmare Fredbear is a very Joker-esque kind of design. Some versions of the character are more focused on like that nightmare aesthetic, while some are more focused on the human normal Fredbear, but no matter what, it's always unsettling. Just human versions of animatronics are creepy. And based on the fact that this could, in theory, be possible in the FNAF universe, which you'd know, there's a whole other story, okay? But like the idea that this could be possible sets me on edge and really gives me trust issues, okay? Whenever someone starts acting different, I'm worried they're an animatronic. Yeah, no, that's not what I'm worried about. In 8, Fixed Nightmare Fredbear. Fixed Nightmare Fredbear is something that I never wanted to see. For some reason, he reminds me of my uncle if he was like a yellow animatronic robot bear, and like not in an insulting way. I can't really put my finger on it, but like that's just how I feel, okay? Anyway, Repaired Nightmare Fredbear is what you'd expect, unless it's the one that's like covered in band-aids and paper. That one is actually pretty funny. However, it had to be Fixed Nightmare Fredbear because Fixed Fredbear is just a slightly darker golden Freddy that's a bit taller, and I don't really know what it is about these repaired animatronics that makes them so creepy, but like maybe it's the fact that they're more realistic, or that in theory they could again exist. I mean, going by the many worlds theory, there is a world where FNAF is real, and then there is a world where each FNAF fan game is real, and then there's a world where I'm personally fighting William Afton, and there's also another world where I am William Afton. But you know what? None of these are this world, yet I still find these repaired animatronics to be creepy as hell, so there we go. And at 7, Bearlock. Bearlock is kind of similar to Fred Trap, okay? In essence, this is just a FNAF what if, where William was using the Spring Freddy suit to kill people instead of the Spring Bonnie suit. The same ideas that were applied to Spring Trap in this case are just applied to Bearlock, and thank you to the comments who have also like sent me this idea on Twitter that I needed this. Thank you. Those are really useful when I'm making lists like these, okay? Because I can't look up everything. Bearlock though is withering due to age, and I'm also guessing flesh because you know it was combined into the suit, so there are exposed sections of that flesh and muscle across the various regions, with some versions having more exposed flesh than others, but they all have good old Willie A inside, constantly screaming in pain because that's what he deserves. These versions, however, I feel are more gruesome than Springtrap, but probably because we don't really have a limit with how far we'll go with these characters, because we don't actually have to sell games with them. Because like, yeah, I mean, like Scott probably wanted to make it a little more family, kid-friendly-ish, you know? And at 6, Realistic Fredbear. Now, looking up Realistic Fredbear, it will not really yield this result on Google Images. This one I found using the keyword of Stylized Fredbear. But after looking at this bear and the big blue house wannabe, I felt Realistic Fredbear was the best name for it. Created as a commission by DeviantArt user Trike Vingang Studio, this perfectly describes my worst nightmares come to life, okay? No joke. I had a dream where I was like on a date with this girl, but then I go to take a shower, then when I was done, I get dressed and I ask her what animatronic head I should wear, which is at the point that I then reveal to her and myself that I am part animatronic. That's no joke, that's actually a dream I had, okay? And this thing just makes me feel like that would actually happen in my life. I don't know. It's a furry animatronic that's absolutely terrifying in the worst way. So please, for the love of God, stop making realistic animatronics or I will actually start puking. Alright, thank you. Halfway through in at number 5, Dimitrescu Ballora. After Resident Evil came out with another installment in the classic well-known series, FNAF fans with a bit more ambition saw this as an opportunity. And while a video about it may have flopped on this channel, the game actually didn't flop in the world. It flopped on this channel. And you know what? The game didn't flop, and neither did the fans after seeing Lady Dimitrescu, if you know what I mean, since there was literally mods just a week after release, maybe less. Okay, it's like when Skyrim first came out and then the first mods were all about removing items off of NPCs, or the mods that came out for Chica and Roxy shortly after security breaches were released. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you get the idea. But Lady Dimitrescu combined with a FNAF animatronic that already caused kids to have mommy issues is just on a whole other level, okay? Like Barney Stinson would be proud. I don't need to describe this, okay? It's Lady Dimitrescu's outfit on Ballora, but it's still terrifying to think about. So someone please Dimitrescu me from this nightmare. And for Scrap Ballora. There are multiple versions of Scrap Ballora and they're all terrifying, some more so than others, but they're all worse than the last for somehow, okay, in some way. There is only really one thing that I find funny about this though, and it's the fact that her chest is still there every time. Like this character, while reassembling herself after being ejected from Ennard, which would be the story for these, thought, you know what, yeah, better put back my memories so that they know that I belong, alright? Let me go grab some mommy milkers for this new body. Like, what? Dude, that's too much. Maybe it is too much. Maybe I said too much, but you know what? I don't care, I'm on medication. There's one from user FT Heinen on DeviantArt that seems to be the most popular one, and for some reason it's carrying a scythe. I mean, don't get me wrong, scythes are cool. Okay, I like the design, but like, why? What in the lore of this character made them have a scythe? Why did they also put their boobs back on their body? Okay, like, is it trying to give every touch-starved person to look it up? Because I mean, it worked. Hi, I put it on a list. So yeah, there's an audience for it. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Destroyed Ballora. Jesus Christ Superstar, what in the Lord's name is this monstrosity, okay? And get it? Because Jesus Christ Superstar is a musical, but then Glamrock Freddy also calls Gregory Superstar in Security Breach. No? Anyway, I thought that Broken Ballora was nightmare fuel, but you know what? This is even worse. Look at this face. This is the face that took over the questionable Reddit groups. This is haunting. The look on her face as if she's like staring into the very abyss where your soul used to be, but like you've already given it to Scott Cawthon in search of answers, so like all she can do is make you suffer. And then she makes you relive your worst memories over and over again, making you scream from the inside, clawing at the walls of your mind, trying desperately to escape, but you can't, and then you won't, because Ballora has you now, okay? And not just any Ballora, this one has seen battle. It knows its weaknesses and it has terminated them. There is no saving you now, okay? Now it's you and Ballora forever, watching you suffer and smiling as you do it, okay? It wanted this, you wanted this, it's everything you could have asked for, but you know what? Now, you know, okay? It's a bad thing, you're suffering, that's not a good thing, okay? This is a toxic relationship, you need to leave. Trust me, okay? You'll be better off. But ultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare Ballora. Nightmare Ballora is a piece of work. Jesus Christ. With teeth like needles and that signature torn and battered nightmare aesthetic, this is what I expect when I think about a nightmare version of a character we have already seen. However, I'm getting some serious, like, Fuerza from Flash Season 7 vibes here, okay? Especially because of the bad CGI. Especially from this image posted on the top of the FNAF subreddit by user Demolition Inevitable. And then the rest of these that you can like find on Google are still terrifying. Even the ones that the most people would consider bad are actually still messed up. This is like the first animatronic on this list that has really made me feel unsafe. That's why I didn't want Help Wanted. I didn't want to play Help Wanted, even more than I don't want to play it now because of this. No. And finally, in at number 1, Spider Ballora. Anyone who knows me knows that I hate spiders. Big, small, poisonous, venomous, non-aggressive. Any form of spider deserves to die, and if it's near me, it will. And while the Havoc puppet is messed up, the spider version of Ballora is literally called Spider Ballora, and I hate it with all my guts. With a couple of Nightmare Balloras, they have the spider legs, okay, but this takes it to another level. Her original form crawling like a spider was bad enough in my eyes, but now I have to deal with literally 3 eyes, 8 legs, a thorax, and 6 arms. What the hell, man? Why on God's green or even desolate earth would you create this unholy monstrosity of a creature? This is the kind of thing that even Satan wouldn't approve approve of. Okay, when you die, you're gonna go downstairs, and then Satan's gonna like find out like who you are. He's gonna hide behind the gate and tell you to keep walking. Okay, this is true horror. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you think that it's not scary. I do. Okay, good for you. That you do you. Whatever, boo boo. Okay, I'm not sleeping tonight. That's the tea, sis. In 10, Nightmare Withered Bonnie. Imagine Withered Bonnie, but on illicit substances that I can't mention on YouTube, and you have Nightmare Withered Bonnie. Withered Bonnie is already scary enough with the beating red eyes and the rundown visuals. Even if it's just a Nightmare Bonnie with Withered Bonnie's style face, it would already be terrifying. And we all know how Scott feels about normal Bonnie. And in the Nightmare version, he's already crapping himself. And then, add a Withered version, and then this is the reason he retired. There, I said it, okay? Not because of any controversy or for him being tired of making games or wanting to make other games for his kids, but because of Nightmare Withered Bonnie. It's an ungodly creation that must be stopped. In 9, Funtime Bonnie. The Funtime animatronics were introduced in Sister Location, the 5th game in the series. However, Bonnie was actively missing from that lineup. Aside from a couple of small hand puppet versions that are unsettling on their own, this left a rabbit-shaped hole in our hearts. So Funtime Bonnie was created. Well, was created by the fans. We don't think that there is a Funtime Bonnie that exists in the lore, like how Chica was just rented out. But if you've watched other lists about fan versions, you'll know that the Funtimes always creep me out. The ability for them to move their faces is wrong, and it's really the selling point to me for why they're scary. Aside from the lore. In at 8, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie. Yet another set of animatronics without any Bonnie representation. The security breach Glamrock animatronics, from what we've seen, I mean, they might add in DLC, but we don't have originally a Glamrock Bonnie. He really only appears as the mascot of bowling. However, fans have yet again made Glamrock versions of Bonnie, but those weren't really scary. So in classic FNAF fashion, if you want something to be scary, you just throw the word nightmare in front of the name, and boom, you have an ungodly abomination that will eat your soul and devour your balls. And I mean like Faz balls, like from the ball pit, okay? I don't know, go with it, okay? Nevertheless, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie looks exactly how you'd expect a Nightmare version of Glamrock Bonnie to look, with shoulder pads. That's the scariest part about it. And at 7, Vinny. Vinny is kind of like the counterpart to the FNAF 2 puppet, but in Five Nights at Candy's, okay? And just like their FNAF 2 counterpart, he has a white face, unlike the puppet actually has a sad face, or like a sad facial expression. He has dark purple lines around his mask, blue cheeks as opposed to the original pink or red ones, I guess. Vinny's lips are also blue, which gives him an overall gloomy feel, especially with the frown, but also concerningly reminds me of Riverdale Season 3. And while I did like some aspects of that season, this isn't the part that it's reminding me of. Also, like his normal FNAF series counterpart, he has a skinny body with long limbs and 3 long slender fingers on each hand. Vinny also has the same eye shape as his FNAF counterpart, which makes him kind of look angry when seen from certain angles. In FNAF 3, Vinny appears in the minigames as his normal version, while not appearing in the main gameplay itself, though his monstrous manifestation, which we'll go into later, is the final antagonist of the game on night 6. In the Fishing with Candy's glitch minigame, while at the FNAF 2 Freddy's location, Mary reaches into a room where the puppet was performing, and upon seeing it, it reminds her of Vinny. Just then, all of the kids in the room start to fade away, and the puppet then distorts rapidly into Vinny, which is just weird, and I don't want to think about it. And at 6, Glamrock Puppet. Okay, every time I make a list discussing creepy animatronics, the puppet makes its way onto it, so I figured I might as well just do a list and hopefully it won't show its ugly head again. But you know what, that's not gonna happen. And a Glamrock Puppet is actually from a previous list, because this is just freaky. And while I do feel like the phone guy whenever I call the puppet creepy, that's because it is creepy. And the Glamrock Puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Fury's Rage minigame like I figured, but instead is just a separate design that no matter what just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint and show me how the pepperoni gets put on the pizza. And no, I don't mean literally. Yes, that was a reference. And not only does it come with its own creepy concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. It also comes with loads of trauma, apparently. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account other versions that will appear later on this list, including the next number. But this is like the 4th weirdest, but like the 6th scariest, you know? So like, it feels wrong to me, okay? It does. Plus the whole pepperoni thing, although it probably wants salami or bratwurst. Halfway through into number 5, stylized Nightmare Fredbear. There are so many different versions of stylized Nightmare Fredbear. I love it so much. I'm pretty sure the term stylized just means converting the character into your style of art, which makes the variety incredible to look at. From more cartoony but still horrific versions to a Frankenstein's monster looking version that will actually haunt me for the rest of my life. If this was in the Halloween DLC, I don't think that I'd actually be as into this as I am. Some of the teeth are actual monsters within themselves. Some are looking like monster animatronics, and then some are looking like they're gonna crawl out of my screen after calling me and saying that I have 7 days, okay? Nightmare Fredbear is one of the scariest animatronics to me, and honestly, I think that if I ever had to play that level in FNAF VR, I would actually piss myself. Like, not even joking. Okay, that's why I don't play FNAF VR. That's why I haven't actually tried to complete it. So I don't have to do that level and that level only. I also think that I'd be trash at the plush baby game, and I don't like being jump scared. But you know, it's mostly the bear thing, okay? It's mostly the Fredbear, okay? Fear is bad. Why do we like being scared? And of course, Sinister Fredbear. Ah yes, this Freddy versions list, or I guess Fredbear versions list, was missing a Sinister animatronic. So here we are with Sinister Fredbear. Had the game released, Sinister Fredbear would have been one of the most terrifying animatronics in Sinister Turmoil. Okay, it would have been a fan game. I don't know what makes this character so horrifying for me, but nevertheless, holy sweet niblets, Miley Ray Stewart, is this thing going to scare you? While there are really only 1 or 2 pictures of Sinister Fredbear, you can already get a sense for how terrifying this animatronic would have been. With the classic Sinister teeth, which at this point are basically signature, and more toy animatronic-like appearance for his casing, this guy would have made the game unplayable for me, okay? I already try and avoid Nightmare Fredbear in FNAF VR, like I said, because I don't want to deal with him. So Sinister Fredbear would have been a deal breaker, okay? And I didn't even know he was meant to be in the game. That would have been a sweet surprise. Close to the end in number 3, Paranormal Fredbear. Paranormal Fredbear is not actually what I first anticipated. I thought that it was going to be closer to Nightmare with a translucent body and more of a wisp mother-like appearance, but instead, Paranormal Fredbear by Taurus 4 on DeviantArt is terrifying. In essence, a Reaper Fredbear, this paranormal version is how I feel a Reaper Fredbear would look in the Final Night series, with endoskeleton bits holding together its melted and torn parts of not only the face but the body as well, and the movement it's just jerky enough to make you question it. You know, the long sharp claws can easily cut through flesh, and the teeth, while not sharp, okay, will definitely set you on edge. Get it? They're nearly human, but not quite human enough, which makes it terrifying, okay? It's like the original Sonic CGI. Not to mention the paranormal spring trap he made, but I gotta save that for another list. But ultimately, in number 2, Slasher Fredbear. Slasher Fredbear by DeviantArt user PlayStation Jedi is an unholy abomination that must be stopped, but also in the best way. I've talked about the Slasher animatronics before, particularly in an older Bonnie alternate versions list. However, Slasher Fredbear is so much worse, okay? He may not have a shotgun axe guitar, but oh my god. Let me read the description of this animatronic in the words of the creator PlayStation Jedi himself. Quote, "The largest and strongest of the Slasher animatronics, Slasher Fredbear is an unstoppable force with enhanced strength and durability. Fredbear is capable of smashing through walls, withstanding lots of punishment, and grabbing heavy objects then throwing them across the room. While Fredbear uses his great strength to pick up and rip people in half, if he needs a quick kill, he can extend a blade mounted on his wrist to cut through people like butter, or if he needs a ranged attack, he can use his 2 wrist-mounted light machine guns. Fredbear can also switch between these weapons on the fly, either using 2 LMGs or 2 blades, or 1 on each wrist." What the actual LMG, by the way, stands for light machine gun, if you couldn't already infer that, but Jesus ever-loving Christ. Jesus ever-loving WH Christ the Third. Why? This is going to make me cry myself to sleep, just when I was getting back to sleeping again normally. Not to mention the spikes that are also covering his body. And finally, in at number 1, Hellmare. This Hellmare version of Nightmare Fredbear is probably the absolute single most horrific FNAF-oriented thing I have ever seen. Like, I'm going to have to make a whole list about the Hellmare animatronics, because this is the craziest ever. How did I not know about these before? Okay, Hellmare Fredbear can only be described as a true nightmarish abomination from hell, and you know what? The name is accurate. This thing has not one, not two, but 3 separate mouths, okay, 2 heads, and not only does it have 2 heads, those heads are reversed from one another. So one head is on top and the other head is on the bottom turned upside down. So it can spin its head 180 degrees and give you either Nightmare or Nightmare Fredbear. Yeah, this dude is both animatronics combined. Even Hannah Montana doesn't approve this best of both worlds. Once I noticed it, I might have actually peed my pants a little, okay? But 2 heads, 2 sets of 4-fingered hands, and half of these parts being nightmare themed. Look, I'm not usually scared when I actually talk about these things, okay? I might play it up for the camera and for entertainment purposes, you know, boom, hyper energy, but yeah, this is actually terrifying, and I'm not going to sleep tonight. I don't know what sadistic mother with this idea. The earliest one I can see is by Molten500 on DeviantArt, but I could be wrong. Either way, please make it stop. And at 10, Shadow Fredbear. Shadow Fredbear is one of the 2 primary antagonists in Final Night's 2 Sins of the Father. Shadow Fredbear is almost perfectly intact, only burnt black in color. He has a few rips on his body and is missing his left hand, but I mean the area around his mouth appears to be slightly torn as well, revealing a majority of his endoskeleton teeth. But other than that, the dude's fairly intact. His teeth and eyes also glow, which makes it easier to see, I guess. But like, imagine if this animatronic had gums, okay? That would be, whew, that would probably be the scariest thing I've ever seen. The absolute monstrosity that it would have been created just by giving this Shadow Freddy gums is terrifying, okay? Like, every time you give something big gums, it makes it scarier. I don't know why. My genius is sometimes petrifying. But nonetheless, this is still creepy without the gums, especially because this dude is so powerful that he actually replaces most of the other animatronics on night 5 of Final Nights 2. But, you know, if you saw other Final Nights lists, you'll already know about Shadow Freddy. In at 9, Bread Bear. Yes, this is a thing. Bread Bear is an animatronic coming from the Day Shift at Freddy series who was created by Dave by modifying a Fredbear suit. The character appears in Day Shifts at Freddy's 1, 2, and 3. Bread Bear's appearance is oddly similar to normal Fredbear, albeit this one is wider. He's a golden colored animatronic bear wearing a purple top hat and bow tie, and 2 black and white buttons along his chest. He has a gray metallic looking eyes, thicker arms and legs, he's kind of a chonky boy, and a squarish brown nose. Okay, his small brown pupils, small white teeth, round ears, with the insides being like lighter shade. You know how you color ears on like animals and stuff, right? And then like cartoons, that's what this is. And a very circular shaped stomach with a couple of brown shades. He has rips across his feet joints and like his arm joints, like at the elbow. He also appears for real when Dave modifies an empty Fredbear suit and unleashes it during the Sting operation on Friday, in which, depending on which route you actually took, it either will attempt to kill Jack, it will die, or it will just destroy the pizzeria joint and then set itself on fire. Love that. And it ate Fred Trap. To be honest, I searched this up just for the hell of it, and there are actually Fredbear versions of Spring Trap. And you know what? I should have figured that was going to be a thing, okay? Fred Trap is exactly what you'd expect. Spring Trap's look on a yellow Freddy animatronic. The designs are actually really well made and honestly are scarier than normal Spring Trap to me. And for some reason, I guess I just think that bears are scarier than bunnies, which I guess makes sense. I mean, like, I think that Scott used the Spring Bonnie suit to be William's kill suit because of how scared Scott himself was of Bonnie because of like the nightmares from the first game because of the jump scare. But again, that could just be me speculating. I mean, it absolutely is, but I mean, like, it's kind of like educated speculating. There are even more rundown versions and even scrap versions of Fred Trap, and honestly, they're haunting, especially when you don't think about the fact that it would still be William inside the suit being kept alive by the spirit of his dead son. You know the story. I mean, you're probably gonna fight me on it being his son, but you know what I mean. Fred Trap is definitely one of the more unique versions of Fredbear I saw for this list, and you know what? I'm pretty damn impressed. And at 7, Withered Nightmare. Now, there aren't many versions of Withered Nightmare, mostly because it's such an obscure thing to search, but honestly, I'm surprised that there were even a couple of these. Yet, somehow, Withered Nightmare makes Nightmare even scarier, despite him literally being the embodiment of death. With missing exosuit and the slightly transparent nature of the animatronic, plus the exposed bits and missing limbs, you know what? It always makes these these characters a little bit more unsettling. Throw on to that Nightmare, the scariest animatronic in the series that literally will consume you if you fail to stop him. He is literally the embodiment of death. That's what the whole point of this series, this game is. If you lose to Nightmare, you die. Even if you win against Nightmare, you still die, but like still, okay? Even, especially with like the exposed brain, like man, can we move on? I don't like this one. This is not this. No thank you. There's a reason I didn't play FNAF 4 or any other one. Who said that? And at 6, Scrap Fredbear. Scrap Fredbear is probably the most unique design for a Scrap animatronic that I've actually seen, okay? Most of the Scrap animatronics have Scrap Baby's claw as a main feature. However, this one is incredibly horrific in the best way. One has a buzzsaw for a hand, which is extremely badass, but the others have severe withering on legs and around the stomach, and they all include the stomach mouth, of course, since, you know, Nightmare Fredbear has a stomach mouth, and is also the scariest Nightmare animatronic aside from, again, the one that's literally called Nightmare, which is just inverted Nightmare Fredbear anyway. But the big withered left hand and the stars coming off of him, they make him look far more menacing. Like if Nightmare Fredbear was an elementary school teacher who just loved giving out gold stars but then corrupted whatever these incredibly underprepared kids would have had to deal with. Okay, like I came out of high school not knowing anything about actual life, but then like you expect a group of 5 kids to take down some horrific otherworldly being. Like who are they supposed to be, Phineas and Ferb? Halfway through into number 5, Reaper Puppet. Ah yes, my old nemesis. The Reaper Puppet, if you didn't know, was the first fan animatronic ever featured on this channel in the top 10 scary FNAF animatronics list ages ago. The first FNAF video by me on this channel was actually on January 29th, 2020. Can you believe that? And the video I'm talking about actually came out a month later on February 24th, 2020. So I have a long history with this character. The Reaper Puppet, along with Shadow Bonnie and the brother from Final Nights 1, are the only animatronics in the entire Final Nights series to start off a night outside. Reaper Puppet appears to be a counterpart to the original series Puppet, though it is, it's only the Reaper Puppet's head that looks similar to the core series. The rest of its body is a dark shade of black. It has long, stretching arms with sharp fingers and at the hands, and it's kind of like if the It's kind of like if the Grim Reaper had the Venom symbiote. That's kind of like the texture that these limbs kind of give me. It has multiple tentacle-like legs. It can easily be mistaken for a tree as well, as long as it looks like roots and, you know, the shoulders kind of looking like a branch, okay? But this thing is creepy. It's always creepy, so I included it on a list that shouldn't really have had fan animatronics, but I was so creeped out that I felt compelled to. Just like how kids at Fazbear Frights are drawn to the restaurants, I was drawn to the Reaper Puppet. And at 4, Withered Puppet. Okay, so, the puppet has always been one of the most terrifying animatronics to me, and I'm sure plenty of you as well, at least until we found out that the puppet was actually supposed to be, like, the goodest boy. But this version really just horrifies me, and I mean, if I ever met it, I'm sure that it would actually, like, kill me. This is a withered version we have yet to see in the games, luckily, because the puppet's face is all torn up and its body looks as though it's been kind of, like, ground up. Like, if you, like, it's like those, like, Shredder videos, you know, like 20-pound block of metal versus Shredder. It's like that, but it was the puppet instead. It also appears to be it has a lot of wires sticking out. The teeth in its mouth are equally disturbing. Its wires also seem to be red and blue, unless that's just the lighting, but it still seems to be holding on to a few buttons on its chest somehow, despite having no external skin, really, on its waist. Just a bunch of exposed wire, and that doesn't sit right with me. That's no thanks. Getting close to the end into number 3, Monster Vinny. Monster Vinny, also known as Monster Reverse Puppet, is the final antagonist of Five Nights at Candy's 3. He is the monstrous manifestation of Vinny, this game's version of the puppet, but instead of sharing the same eyes as Nightmare Yon and New Vinny, this part of the mask is just wide open. The eyes appear to be held up by a metal frame inside of the mask. The jaw appears to be able to move kind of like a dummy, and the mouth contains many sharp teeth, stained red at the tips with what I'm sure is definitely ink. Yeah, that's it. That's gonna help me sleep at night. Monster Vinny's mask also appears to be aged and like kind of like dirty, but like not aged in a good way like whiskey, but like just bad. He sports a blue bow tie with 3 white buttons, has purple-blue coloring on his lips, again reminding me of Riverdale Season 3, which I don't want to talk about, and his hands also seem to come to like points with blood on the ends of it too. I mean ink, it's ink, it's red ink. What am I talking about? It's Crayola sponsored. Monster Vinny is also very skinny, skinnier than me, if you can believe it, or not. But while not the scariest animatronic, the jump scare for Monster Vinny is actually pretty damn terrifying. But ultimately, in number 2, Havoc Puppet. Havoc Puppet is responsible for the creation of every animatronic in Dormitibus, a FNAF 3 fan game, with the exception of one. Havoc Puppet is formed by a cracked and distorted version of the puppet's original mask, which is missing its lower half. So basically, the jaw up is, or like just the jawline up. That's where you get it. The head has a small hole above the place where the mouth would be. Has 2 white pupils, which again, that's just creepy. Inside empty sockets, which presumably are gateways to the void. The lower missing half of the mask features 7 black-like tentacle extensions, like 3 at the back and 4 at the front. And then like the side 2 at the front are used as legs, while the other 2 seem to be like arm appendages, and then the back 3 seem to be tails, which is a whole other weird thing. Like, why not have them all just be legs, for God's sakes? They also got a crack on the top of the head, okay? It's wrong, it looks like a giant messed up spider, and we all know how I feel about spiders. I hate them, but certainly when it's an animatronic puppet. And finally, in at number 1, Sinister Puppet. Sinister Turmoil is a fan game of the popular FNAF series, obviously. I mean, like, it's kind of obvious at this point. But this game features everything that you'd want from a free roam FNAF game, including multiplayer, your favorite characters from other fan games like Pop Goes and Ignited Freddy. However, the game was ultimately abandoned for various reasons, but the team is still working on their small snippet of the original game called Sinister Turmoil Sewers, which is actually going to be getting an update very soon. Known on the Sinister Turmoil wiki as the Crooked, Sinister Puppet is exactly like any Sinister animatronic, but the puppet. This version is very similar to their FNAF 2 form, although a little wider in the face this time around. They have the iconic sharp sinister teeth, which is kind of required by these guys, and just they're all around creepy and just wrong. Since there was never really a full game, we can't be certain what their mechanics or role would have been, but they definitely would have been an antagonist. And the eyes on this one are sharper, and they seem to be squinting, kind of like when Jack gets angry in A Nightmare Before Christmas, which is an overrated movie, but that's a whole other thing. And then he has like the classic puppet look aside from that, okay, with just a hint of red on the bottom of the teeth, which really drives in the fact that it is going to tear you to shreds. In at 10, Shadow Animatronics. One of the oldest theories is that the Shadow Animatronics are the first Springlock victims, and while they are from the main FNAF universe, this is a fan theory, so it counts. This comes to us after the FNAF 3 phone guide dialogue that mentioned multiple and simultaneous Springlock failures, which some interpreted as multiple Springlock suits failing at once, since the term Springlock in this situation is used to describe the suit as a whole, and instead of the individual Springlock mechanisms that are present within the suit. So the line of multiple and simultaneous Springlock failures could mean multiple of the Springlocks inside one suit failing at the same time, or more than one suit failing at the same time. This led some to theorize that previous employees were killed in the Springlock suits, which is where the Shadow Animatronics come from. This is supported by the fact that these shadows are of Freddy and Bonnie, the 2 animatronics that have Springlock versions, and while there are holes in this theory, this is, like, potentially the case. It's an idea at the very least. So yeah, Shadow Animatronics are fan Springlock victims, because it's not confirmed. That's how I made it work. In at 9, Grim Fredbear. Grim Fredbear is one of the antagonists in Final Night's 3 Nightmares Awoken. He's only active on night 5 and is found by the left hallway. Grim Fredbear resembles the normal golden Fredbear, only with his suit glowing a deep purple color, while the interior of the suit glows a bright white. His upper face appears to be torn off, including his eyes, leaving an empty, hollow, gaping hole in its place, and the inside of the mask, though it appears like there is nothing inside, actually conceals a white, pale human head that can only be seen during the jump scare. And before you ask, yes, it's mine. I was going to make that a joke, but I actually wrote that into the script. Holy crap. This animatronic is clearly meant to be a reference to Shadow Freddy and the theory that the Shadow Animatronics are Springlock victims, which was confirmed to be false by Scott when he stated that William was a Springlock failure, but still, okay? On the museum level of Final Nights, which unlocks after night 5, it is revealed that Grim Fredbear is a Springlock victim, saying, quote, another Springlock failure victim, the 2nd generation of Fredbear. In at 8, Fred Trap. To be honest, I searched this up just for the hell of it, and there actually are Fredbear versions of Springtrap, which is kinda cool, but I mean, kind of expected. Fred Trap is exactly what you would expect. Springtrap's look on a yellow Freddy animatronic. The designs are actually really well made and honestly are scarier than normal Springtrap for me. I mean, I don't know, I guess for some reason I think bears are scarier than rabbits. Don't know why I would think that. But I think that Scott made William use the Spring Bonnie suit because of how scared Scott himself was of it, but that could also just be idle speculation. There's another theory that I have that maybe he was going to use the Fredbear animatronic, but then after his son got killed by it, he switched to Bonnie. There are also even more rundown versions and even scrap versions of Fred Trap, which are already haunting when you don't think about the fact that it would still be William inside the suit being kept alive by the spirit of his dead kid. Yeah, so Fredbear is definitely one of the more strangely unique versions that I've seen for this list, and you know what? I'm pretty damn impressed. These designs are pretty good. And at 7, Motorcycle Ballora. This one's on the list because it's weird. It's not necessarily scary in like the typical sense, but it's more so weird than the previous ones were scary, if that makes sense, so it's gonna go higher on the list. Someone turned Ballora into a motorcycle, and I don't know why, okay? Like, I'm all for whatever you're into. I'm not gonna yuck your yum, alright? This is a no judgment zone, unless it's like a weird ship. As long as it also is legal and doesn't put anyone in danger. But this obsession with riding Ballora, this is kind of pushing it, okay? It puts my mental stability in danger, and honestly, that was already dancing on the fence. So even the slightest nudge is gonna send me spiraling into a well of even more FNAF madness, okay? Like, why is this a thing? Where were you? What compelled you to make this? Who hurt you? And what is her back wheel made of? Like what? God, what unearthly being made you do this? Were they keeping your family hostage? And at 6, Broken Ballora. Smother is already a broken Ballora in FNAF AR, I believe, or at least it's just kind of ruined there. This is just based on like animatronic deterioration, or at least the one from FNAF AR is, okay? But this one, created by Kenj1 on DeviantArt, is creepy as all living hell. This is basically just a withered Ballora, and honestly, I don't know why I didn't really look that up for this list, okay? That's usually my method. I go in, put the name of the animatronic, then just add adjectives in front of it, like nightmare, scrap, phantom, etc. And then you get the animatronics, basically, like broken or stylized. But this time, I didn't look up withered for some reason. I guarantee that there is at least one version of withered Ballora. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2. You know what? Screw it. We're gonna change this name to withered Ballora now, okay? Go for it. Go. This is withered Ballora, okay? And all of them are creepy. Alright, okay. Alright, let's move on. Halfway through, in at number 5, Ignited Bonnie. Remember when I said it would get even more meta? Well, here we are, with the meta levels rising above even Central City. Because Ignited Bonnie comes from the joy of creation, a FNAF fan game where you play as Scott Cawthon in the real world. Yes, in this game, you play as the creator of FNAF himself, after he retires the series, 2 years after the release of the first game. So at least it's not real life. The animatronics don't like that though, and somehow break out of the game to attack Scott, his family, and Michael Afton, who also escaped. This game is also getting a new version as a part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, and honestly I'm excited to see what's coming. I mean, I'm probably not going to play it, but I'm excited to see it. The Joy of Creation is seen as one of the scariest FNAF fan games, so it's obvious why it would get a new funded version. I feel like Scott also liked the idea of being a playable character, because I know I sure as hell would. Like, it would give me a much needed ego boost. Actually, at this point, it's not really needed. I'm feeling damn good. It would be fun though. I want to play as myself, so that for once, I'm the one playing me, instead of being played by others. Maybe I'm not okay. In at 4, Nightmare Toy Bonnie. I thought that the Nightmare versions couldn't get any worse, yet here we are. I remember someone commenting on an alternate fan versions of Chica list a long time ago, saying that it was more like a fan versions of Toy Chica list. But the toy animatronics are just other versions of the originals, okay? So it wasn't a different list, it's the same thing. So don't pester me about it this time around, goddammit. Nightmare Toy Bonnie is a monstrosity that just needs to be banished to the depths of hell from which it came, and then sent by Satan from hell to like the empty or something because he just doesn't want to deal with it. And I would understand why. Looking this up, I didn't think I'd be as frightened as I was, but holy ever loving living crap. This actually kind of shocked me how terrifying it was. The toy aesthetic just seems to make these versions worse. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just the toy animatronics as nightmares just make the absolute scariest versions. I swear, I don't know what it is. It works so well together. If you have any theories as to why this is a thing, let me know in the comments because, like, Jesus. And also, yes, I have a Band-Aid on my thumb, okay? I was removing supports off 3D print and I was being stupid about it, so I gashed my thumb. And when I say it's deep. Getting close to the end in number 3, Sinister Bonnie. You know how earlier I said that if you want something to be scary, you just add nightmare in front of it? Well, there's about 10 different words that you can use over and over again, and then you'll get the same thing, okay? Because if you know these lists, you knew that Sinister Bonnie was bound to make an appearance, because Sinister is just one of those words. From the unfinished, unreleased, and cancelled fan game Sinister Turmoil, we have Sinister Bonnie, an animatronic best described as a repaired nightmare version. With teeth sharper than Eminem's lyrics and an overall demeanor more intimidating than Will Smith at the Oscars, this animatronic is some pure nightmare fuel, and it's clear to see why. Every time I see one of these sinister animatronics, I'm glad that the game didn't release. Like, not because it wouldn't have been good. I'm sure the game would have been amazing, but because I don't have to interact with these animatronics anywhere. Like, other than images, okay? But they can't hurt me through images. And that's what really matters to me in the long run. Avoiding being scared at all costs. I still don't get why people like being scared, okay? Maybe it's like a kink thing, if you ask me. I feel like it probably is. Fear evolved to protect us, okay? Being scared is a bad thing. Nevertheless, these things are just so wrong, but so right. At least, so right in the scare department, and wrong for my pants, because at this point, these pants are brown, and the laundry room also smells atrocious. And ultimately, in at number 2, Draw Kill Bonnie. Draw Kill Bonnie was actually a version I was recommended on previous videos. Multiple comments suggested that I look up the Draw Kill animatronics, and honestly, I'm glad you told me, because goddamn, this thing is menacing. Called Bonnie Bot by Draw Kill on DeviantArt, it's a disproportionate Bonnie robot that is made to look like metal. Like, we all know how I feel about disproportionate things as well, aside from Funko Pops, because those are blessed. They always end up being more off-putting than normal, okay? And the hands on this thing are gigantic, which just makes me think that it's going to crush me and then like use its arm like a hammer, like one of the infected from Back for Blood. You know that one? The one with the tower arm? Yeah, that thing. Or it's just gonna keep wailing on me until I'm either pulverized or 6 feet under. Literally 6 feet under. It'll punch me into the earth. These Draw Kill animatronics are damn terrifying, and I'm really thankful for your recommendations. So if you have any other animatronics that you want me to check out for characters that maybe I haven't covered yet, or if you have any characters that you want to see alternate fan versions of, let me know in the comments, because that's really helpful. My brain is kind of like packed at capacity, and again, I use like the same 10 keywords over and over looking for these. I always type in nightmare and toy and nightmare toy and, you know, those kinds of things. So yeah, Draw Kill is definitely in the reservoir, so it's like 11 words, but please. And finally, in at number 1, Slasher Bonnie. Yet another recommendation from the comments. Slasher Bonnie will haunt my nightmares for years. As if I wasn't scared enough about playing the guitar, Slasher Bonnie turns that into an actual fear by making the guitar a giant axe. So, thanks PlayStation Jedi on DeviantArt. Thanks for causing more restless nights than my axe. This damn guitar axe thing is so goddamn creepy, especially because there is literally blood dripping off of it. I don't know what else to say. I feel like the picture says it all. If a picture says 1,000 words, I would need like 2 pictures in my script, and then that would be the video, okay? Because my scripts are usually around 2,000 words long, which is significantly more than most people, okay? I talk fast. But also, it's why I don't have time for comments. Because I take too long to film a video anyway, okay? Just as long as you keep Slasher Bonnie away from me, I think I'll be okay though. Although the Slasher animatronics will be making more appearances if I do talk about these more. Because god damn it, have you seen like the Chica version? It has a bib that says let's kill instead of let's eat. And like, I love Chica, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that might be a little much.